Ever just sit there staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. and wonder why your brain decides right now is the perfect time to think about aliens, serial killers, or whether raccoons have a secret government? Because same. My mind, it just races at a million miles a minute, especially at night. I'll be sitting there thinking did I really just say that to that boy last week? Well, if that's the case, then welcome to the Random Hour, where nothing makes sense, but everything gets talked about. I'm your host, Ariel Pickenpaw, and this is the space where curiosity goes completely feral. So, hi. If you're new here, which, of course you are, because this is literally episode number 1, welcome to the experiment. Now, this podcast was born out of what I like to call mental chaos with a mic. It's for people whose brains refuse to just shut up for 5 minutes. Like, if you've ever tried to meditate and end up thinking about your grocery list or your ex and the concept of time, congratulations, because you belong here. Some days I want to talk about murder mysteries, the dark corners of the human mind, the kind of stories that make you double check your locks at night. Other days it's comedy bits about donuts, aliens, or death anxiety. And sometimes we're just going to talk about random weirdness of existing. Like why crying in the shower kind of feels like therapy, or why raccoons act like tiny drunk little burglars. Basically, it's the internet, but with less scrolling and more existential dread. And maybe that's what the Random Hour is all about. The way our thoughts never stay still. We bounce between deep and dumb, tragic and hilarious, like mental ping pong with no rules. 1 second you're Googling symptoms of ghost possession, and the next you're watching videos of people intentionally harming themselves by throwing themselves down a mountain on like a motorcycle or a bike or something. And you're also, end up watching, I would say, I've seen honestly those videos of like the raccoons washing cotton candy and then they start crying when it disappears in the water. Brains are literally so messy. So let's make a show that embraces that mess.
Wait, so there's no theme?
Exactly. The theme is no theme. It's chaos with purpose. Or maybe purpose with chaos, whichever way you want to look at it. Depends on the level of caffeine you've had. It's the kind of show that reflects what it's like to be human right now. Overstimulated, curious, slightly unhinged, but somehow still functioning, because that's life, right? We're all working contradictions, fascinated by murder documentaries, but crying over a Pixar movie 30 minutes later. And you know what? I love that contradiction. I love that we can be serious one moment, ridiculous the next, and still find connection in the middle of all that randomness. This isn't just a podcast. It's like a mental playground. Some days it'll feel like therapy. Other days it'll feel like you're trapped in a late night gas station conversation with your weirdest friend. But either way, you'll leave with something. A thought. A laugh. Wait, what the hell did I just listen to? That's the goal. Because I think we need a space to just exist. No filters, no pressure to make sense, just the freedom to be curious, confused, emotional, and entertained all at once.
So, Ariel, what qualifies you to talk about literally anything?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I have Google, curiosity, and caffeine, which honestly makes me more qualified than half of the internet. I'm not here to be a know it all. I'm here to ask questions, start conversations, and maybe say the things we all think but don't really say out loud. Because life is weird, and people are weirder, and the thoughts we have at 3 a.m., those deserve a microphone. That's what the Random Hour is. It's not about perfection, it's about the beauty of unfiltered thoughts. Some episodes will make you laugh, again, some might make you uncomfortable. Some might make you even question your entire existence, in a good way. hopefully.
So basically, you're turning overthinking into entertainment.
Exactly. Finally making my anxiety work for me. So grab your coffee, grab your curiosity, and maybe your emotional support snack because we're diving into everything: murder, comedy, conspiracy, existential crises. Nothing's off the table here. This is the Random Hour, a place where chaos meets connection, and somehow it all just makes sense. All right, let's get dark here for a second. Because we can't have a show called The Random Hour and not talk about stuff that makes your skin crawl a little, right? So let's talk about murder. I know, that's a heavy pivot from raccoons and existential donut, but that's kind of the point. Humans are weird. We can laugh 1 second and lean into horror the next, like it's emotional parkour. And true crime is the perfect example of that. We watch documentaries, listen to podcasts, read every article, but most of us wouldn't last 10 minutes in a horror movie. Except for, I mean, I like to think that I would last pretty long in a horror movie. I mean, I have faith that I am a survivor, right? I am a survivor, and I feel like y'all would be survivors too, because, you're here, and we're all survivors here. So the question is, though, why do we do it? Why do we consume stories that make us sleep with the lights on? Because we're nosy little adrenaline junkies? Honestly, yeah, maybe. But I think it's more than that. It's curiosity about what breaks a person. Where's that invisible line between a bad thought and a terrible action? Because if we can understand them, maybe we can reassure ourselves that we're nothing like them. And here's the creepy part, and just hear me out. Maybe we see a tiny piece of ourselves staring back. Don't worry, I'm not saying you're the next Ted Bundy, but haven't you ever had that intrusive thought like, if I just shove this annoying person into a bush right now or over, off that fucking bridge? We all have dark thoughts. The difference is most of us never act on them. And that's what's fascinating to me. What flips the switch in someone's brain? What makes an otherwise normal person wake up one day and decide to destroy everything? Like they just wake up and they're like, you know what? This bitch is annoying me today. I'm just gonna go fucking murder her. Now, you've heard the names like Dahmer, Bundy, Ed Gein, monsters whose stories have practically became horror mythology. But behind all that shock value are patterns: psychology, trauma, obsession, and honestly, that's where my curiosity lives. In that gray area between horror and human nature.
So you're saying you relate to serial killers?
No, I mean, let me clarify. In a way, I feel like everyone can kind of relate to, a serial killer if you really think about it. A lot of them come from broken homes, loneliness, feelings of not feeling enough or wanted or good enough. And I don't really think it's the fact of relating to them, but wanting to study them. Because everybody can feel, alone and detached and like nobody cares about them or feels for them. But it's what you do with those feelings that determine, oh, am I going to go murder this person and become a serial killer? Or am I going to just sit here and self reflect and find out why it's making me feel sad? I'm not the type to like build a skin lamp, but I am the type to wonder why someone thought that might be a good idea. Curiosity doesn't mean condoning, right? It means questioning. And that's what I want to do here. Plus, to admit, I mean, half of you are listening because you do love this stuff. We all have that one true crime podcast that becomes our comfort noise. It's like, oh, yes, time to finally fold laundry while learning about an unsolved decapitation. Because nothing says self-care like serial murder and chamomile tea. But in a way, I think it's healing. We listen to the darkness so we can process our own fears. It's kind of like a safe chaos, a little peek into the abyss without having to fall in. And honestly, that's the part that hooked me. I didn't start liking true crime because I love gore. I mean, I kind of love gore, but I liked it because it reminds me how fragile we are. How quickly ordinary can twist into unthinkable. Ed Gein, for example. He wasn't the first and he wasn't the worst, believe it or not. But he did change horror forever. Without him, we wouldn't have Psycho, we wouldn't have Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Silence of the Lambs. He literally redefined the way people imagine monsters. And if you think about it, it's honestly kind of poetic in a horrifying way, yeah. One lonely man in Wisconsin created a ripple that shaped decades of fear. That's the kind of random connection I want to explore. How one human's darkness becomes everyone's nightmare.
So, next week we're diving into Ed Gein, right?
Oh, obviously. I mean, we're going down into the basement. Metaphorically, of course. I don't think though I would love to actually go visit the real place. But that's the beauty of this show. One episode might be pure horror, but the next, total chaos. And that's what makes the random hour the random hour. And hey, I get it. Not everyone's into the macabre. Some of you just come for the jokes and the chaos. But I promise, even when it gets dark, we're not just sensationalizing. We're dissecting. No pun intended. Okay, maybe a little bit. So yeah, that's where we're headed. Into the weird, the wild, the scary, and the silly. Because if you can find laughter in the darkness, you've already taken some of its power away. And that's really the point, to talk about the things people typically avoid. To look at the monsters, real or imagined, and say, okay, but why? Because the more we understand the dark, the less it controls us. So if you're still with me, congratulations, you've officially made it through the first plunge into madness. Next up, we're going to lighten things up, sort of, because I'm about to prove that donuts might actually be the most philosophical food ever created. Okay, deep breath. We just crawled out of the psychological basement, and now it's time to reward ourselves. Preferably with sugar. Because if there's one universal truth I believe in, it's donuts can fix at least 60% of life's problems. The other 40%, that's called coffee and denial. Let me explain. Donuts are pure emotional geometry. They're round, comforting, sweet, and completely unnecessary. Just like most of our favorite decisions. They don't judge you. They don't ask questions. They just say, hey, I'm your favorite fried bread covered in sugar. Let's forget about our taxes for just 5 minutes.
So, you're saying donuts are therapy?
Absolutely. They're cheaper, faster, and they don't tell you to breathe through it. Here's my theory. The outside, sweet, put together, for the most part, Instagram worthy. The middle, a literal hole, kind of like where some of our souls are, or well, supposed to be. And somehow that emptiness is what makes it beautiful. Like, you can't have a donut without the hole. Otherwise, it's just a roll, and that's honestly trying too hard. Tell me that's not a metaphor for us. We're all working around with little holes in the middle, trying to fill it with sugar, caffeine, relationships, or Wi Fi validation. And honestly, I mean, that's okay. It's being human. Sometimes I eat donuts and feel deep spiritual peace. And other times I'm halfway through one thinking, is this hole a symbol of my existential dread, my entire existence? Either way, it still tastes good. But here's the thing. The world is chaotic, and we need small, stupid joys to remind us that not everything has to be heavy. True crime, heavy. Politics, heavy. Taxes, don't even get me started. But a donut, that's the joy you can eat.
What about bagels? They've got holes too.
Bagels are donuts that went through therapy and got a job. They're responsible, okay? They pay rent, they have fiber. Donuts are chaos. Bagels are balance, and you need both in life, both balance and chaos to even it out. And that, my friends, is the random hour in pastry form. Half chaos, half comfort, with an emotional hole in the middle. But if we zoom out, isn't that kind of how life works? The balance between the absurd and the profound, the silly stuff that somehow makes the serious stuff easier to handle. I think that's what fascinates me about doing this show, honestly. One moment we're discussing Ed Gein's psyche, and the next we're dissecting dessert, because it's all connected. We process darkness through humor and humor through meaning, and it's our survival mechanism. So, in conclusion, Your Honor, life is like a box of donuts. Messy, unpredictable, occasionally jelly filled, and best shared with people who get your weird. And speaking of weird, okay, I've got a question for you guys. Why do we as humans overthink everything? Like, if I see a donut on the counter, my brain goes, should I eat it? Will it ruin my diet? What is diet culture? Am I complacent in capitalism? Do sharks eat donuts if they see it floating around in the ocean? Like, why wouldn't they? Honestly. I mean, if I was a shark and I seen a donut just floating there in the ocean, I mean, I'd try to eat it. Fuck it. Meanwhile, the donut's just, sitting there on the counter like, you good, bro? What's going on? You need to talk about it. And maybe that's why I love randomness. It cuts through the noise. It reminds me that not everything needs an answer. Some things just are. So if you're still listening right now, maybe you're driving home from work or folding laundry or even just zoning out. Here's your reminder. It's okay to enjoy something for no reason. Eat the donut, okay? Laugh at the dumb meme. Ask the weird question. That's the stuff that keeps us sane between all the chaos.
You realize you literally just spent 10 minutes turning donuts into philosophy, right?
I did, and I regret nothing. If Socrates had Krispy Kreme, he'd have written less and smiled more, honestly. All right, so enough about sugar. Let's spin the wheel of chaos again. Coming up next, we're going from glazed holes to black holes. That's right, we're talking aliens, dreams, and overthinking at 2 a.m. So grab your tinfoil hat and your emotional support blanket because it's about to get cosmic. That sounded so gay. All right, lights off, brain on. It's that hour, the one where you're supposed to be sleeping, but instead your mind's doing backflips. Like suddenly you're thinking about that weird sound the fridge made, right? And then wondering if time is even real. Like I one time I had a dream and I honestly I woke up from it and I could not like for a good solid 10 minutes. I was like, "Oh my God, am I real? Is this real? Does this exist? Do I exist? What is going on?" Yeah. Welcome to the 2 a.m. zone. Population, overthinkers, dreamers, and people who forget how to relax. This is where aliens live. Not necessarily in outer space, but in our thoughts. I mean, in outer space too, but also in our thoughts. And before you roll your eyes, hear me out. I'm not saying little green men are sneaking into your house while you're asleep. I'm saying maybe there's more going on out there and in here than we admit. Do you ever just lie awake and wonder, what if we're the aliens? Like, what if Earth was the Florida of the galaxy, and that one wild planet the rest of the universe gossips about? And honestly, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't put it past it. I mean, first off, I do have to say, you will have to be delusional or I'm so sorry, but downright stupid to honestly believe that aliens don't exist, that we're the only things out there in the entire existence of fucking everything, right? I mean, think about it. If another species was literally watching us, they'd be like, "Wait, hold on. They have wars, reality TV, and cheese that sprays from a freaking can? Yeah, we're not visiting that one. I wouldn't visit us either. Mm-mm. Especially not with that fucking fake cheese in a can. Fuck that." So, your theory is we're the intergalactic Florida man? Exactly. We're the chaos corner of the cosmos. But for real, space freaks me out and fascinates me at the same time. The idea that there are trillions of stars, each one maybe holding a planet just like ours, and that we're here arguing about pineapple on fucking pizza, it kind of puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Our problems feel huge until we remember we're literally floating on a giant rock, orbiting a fireball, surrounded by infinites of unknown. And somehow, I still lose sleep over unread emails and boys. Insane. Then there are dreams. You ever wake up from one that feels too real? Like your brain just accidentally tuned into another timeline or like another dimension? You're like, why was I married to a penguin in that dream? And why did it make sense, like while it was happening? Dreams are basically our subconscious throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. And overthinking, that's just the working version of it. Well, maybe a little bit of donuts. But this next one's about us, the everyday chaos of being human and why that's okay. So let's bring it back down to earth for just a minute. Life is weird. You wake up late, spill coffee, argue with your GPS, and somehow still think you're not doing enough. We're all working contradictions, equal parts chaos and hope.
So basically, we're just sentient Wi-Fi signals?
Exactly. Lagging half the time and still trying to connect. And that's why this show exists. Because in a world that feels like static, we need a place to laugh, to get deep, to get lost, and to remember we're not the only ones thinking the weirdest thoughts at night. Do you ever just kind of stop in the middle of your day and think, wow, life is kind of goddamn ridiculous? Like, why do we spend decades trying to figure ourselves out? And all I figured out is that I still forget my laundry in the washer and rehearse arguments in the shower like it's the Grammys, because we all know I'm gonna win an argument. I mean, the bottom line of it is we're all weird, every single one of us. Some people hide it a little bit better than most, but weird is the most honest version of a human someone can be. Like, one of the things that I am personally told all the time is like, Ariel, you're so weird. You're just so weird. And honestly, like, at this point, I take it as a compliment. Like, thank you. Why would I want to be fucking normal? That's boring. And that's something that I want to normalize here on the Random Hour. The weirdness, the chaos, the imperfection. I want us to be weird, right? With no judgment. Because that's what connects us. You mean to tell me everyone else also talks to themselves while they're grocery shopping? Oh, absolutely. You're not alone. Some of us are in the produce aisle having a full-blown TED Talk with our inner monologue. And if you're not, I mean, honestly, I don't know what you're doing. Like, do you just think nothing? Like, what are you doing if you're not talking to yourself? Do I really need these grapes? What is need? What is the moment? Reinvent myself as a fruit person and a person. Did I get that thing the other day? What else did I need to get while I was here? I don't remember. I don't know. Anyways. But, I mean, if you think about it, honestly, it is funny, but also kind of beautiful. How much we all overthink the tiniest things while we're trying to survive the big ones. Like how I'll have an existential crisis over picking a toothpaste brand, but totally be chill about the concept of death and mortality. And maybe that's the balance. The small chaos distracts us from the big chaos. And maybe that's how we cope. We're all just managing in our own little weird ways. Some people meditate, some binge true crime. Some of us, record podcasts our way. And honestly, that's something I'm learning. And that's okay not to have it all figured out. It's okay to change your mind, to start over, to feel lost sometimes. Because even in the randomness, there's meaning. You just might not see it until a little bit later. When I started this show, I thought it was going to be chaos. And it is, but it's also something else. It's a reminder that connection doesn't always come from having the right answers. Sometimes it comes from being real, saying the awkward thing, admitting the weird thought, and laughing when life feels heavy.
So, what's the lesson here?
That we're all trying our best, and most days that's enough. That you can be messy and still meaningful. That you can have no idea where you're going, and it can still be a pretty good ride. So, yeah, that's the heart of the Random Hour. A safe space for nonsense, curiosity, humor, humanity, and just a place to be full-on weird. A place where we admit that life's not linear, and it's loops and tangents and weird 2 a.m. thoughts that turn into something worth talking about. And hey, if nothing else, at least now you have an excuse when someone asks, what kind of podcast do you listen to? You can just say, it's about everything. And watch their brain short circuit trying to process that. But really, just want to thank you guys all for being here, for listening to my chaos, for sharing a little of your time, and for giving randomness a chance. If you're driving, again, folding laundry, laying in bed, or just zoning out, you're part of this hour, and that means something. Because this show, it's not just about me talking, though we all know I love to talk. It's about you realizing you're not the only one whose thoughts wander like a drunk toddler. We're all in the same mental maze, bumping into walls and occasionally finding treasure. And maybe that's what makes being human kind of perfect. The imperfection of it all. So before we wrap the first episode, remember, you don't have to make sense all the time. You don't have to have a plan. You can be weird, lost, curious, and hopeful, all in the same breath. This world moves fast, but for this 1 hour, we got to slow down. To wander, think out loud, and to find comfort in the chaos. And that right there is what makes the Random Hour worth coming back to. And that's our hour, folks. Again, thank you for spending it with me. And if you stuck around this long, first of all, you are my people. Second, welcome to the Random Hour family. Here, we don't judge the random, we celebrate it. We find the meaning in the madness. We laugh at our own thoughts before they eat us alive. This season, we're going everywhere. Murder, mystery, dream theories, comedy, chaos, and occasionally existential meltdown. So buckle up. The universe is weird, and so are we. I'm Ariel Pickenpaw, and this was your dose of beautiful nonsense. See you next time. Same hour, different dimension. This was the Random Hour. Want your story or weird late night thoughts on the show? Contact the Random Hour 2025 at yahoo.com or the Random Hour on Facebook. Tell me your origin story with weird